The biggest station in the world, playing all of today's hits. You're listening to Instinct Radio.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Happy Monday. This is your boy Kevin Thornton, and you have tuned in to the Wellness Architect Show. Today is Monday, May 14th, 2018. I have an amazing show today. I met this young lady about 3 weeks ago, and she really impressed me with her conversation and what she's trying to do in the community. And I said I had to have her on my show so she could have 2 hours or an hour and a half just to talk to everybody about what's going on in the community in Atlanta regarding the health and wellness, but also how it could apply to your life. So if you have any questions or you have any comments, please call in at 478-569-6474. Once again, 478-569-6474. If you watching us on Facebook Live, leave your comments, and our producer will respond to you if you have any questions on or any comments. So I have Miss Dion Turner.
Yes.
How you doing?
I'm doing well, Kevin. How are you?
I am excellent. Can you tell everybody who you are, what you do, and how you get to this point right here?
So my name is Dion Turner, and I'm currently working as a program coordinator over at Holistic Stress Control Institute, which is here in Atlanta in the Cascade Heights area.
Okay.
So on a personal level, I'm a Reiki practitioner. I'm also a health and wellness advocate for our community, and I'm working on a project called Project Wellness that Holistic is sponsoring. We actually received a grant from the Atlanta Beltline Partnership as well as Kaiser Permanente for 2 years to be able to go into the West End community, of which I'm also a resident, and to offer health education classes and wellness activities so that we can get the West End community residents out, not just utilizing the Beltline for our wellness, but learning techniques to go about and, become healthier individuals.
Okay.
So it's a great program. Holistic Stress Control Institute has been in operations for over 33 years.
Okay.
It has a great history. And I'm really, really proud to be a part of an organization with a mission such as this.
Okay. Now I know with your organization, y'all had a event 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
So what was that event? What was it? What was the name of the event, and what was it about?
So we hosted the West End Health and Wellness Festival on April 28th, which was a couple weekends ago at Gordon White Park. And so what we did was we got a lot of different community partners together, like Truly Living Will, Music in the Park, We Tours Atlanta, Grady, Kaiser, WellCare, several people like Dr. Cowan from Georgia Bluefoot and Ankle, Lee Thompson Young Foundation, just several different community partners got together along with vendors, and we had food out there, we had entertainment, because we wanted to bring the community together in an open space to be able to present various techniques that people could use. So we offered yoga, tai chi, qigong, dance therapy. We had different instructors coming in to do demonstrations for the community. And also, we had some people get up and talk about these different topics that are relevant to our health and wellness, and present that out to the community so people could kind of understand things about like diabetes, how to manage stress. There were just different topics that were presented throughout the day. So it was a really good 3-hour event. It was a lot of fun. There was a good turnout, but, we definitely wanted to see more people from the community out, but we were happy with it being a first event.
Right.
And we're looking forward to doing it again.
Okay. So like I told you when I found out about it, I definitely want to be a part of it, the next one. So I will definitely be in touch with you with that so I can stay connected because that's part of my mission because I guess, not outside of doing this on the show, but I want to be also be in the grassroots in the community to try to affect change, especially within our community. 'Cause I know you were doing some research, and how many people have diabetes?
Okay, so 4.9 million African Americans have been diagnosed with diabetes.
Wow.
That's a huge number, considering that there are about 74 million African Americans in the United States. And, you know, when you look at that kind of number, it's like, why is it so high? You know, what is really going on with our population that we're experiencing diabetes at such a high level? But what's really interesting to me is that, so for instance, at our event on Saturday the 28th, people really do not like the word diabetes.
They don't.
Especially, you know, American Blacks, we do not like to hear that word. There's something about that word that just doesn't resonate with people. So when you tell people, hey, you know, come on, let's like learn about diabetes, much like the word wellness, it just doesn't resonate for some reason. I don't know if it makes people feel bad or if it's a strange word. I don't know what it is, but there's something about our community to where people just do not want to have the conversation about diabetes. So it's very interesting to me.
So do you think sometimes people don't want to have a conversation because if they become educated on the information, then they need to be held accountable for it?
I mean, that's a relevant thought, right? Because it really does come back down to diet at the end of the day. That we as Black people have such a high level of preventable illnesses in our community. I mean, these are from high blood pressure, heart disease, diabetes, so many different things that are impacting us in our bodies. These are things that if we exercised, if we ate right,
Drink water.
if we drank water, if we, I don't know, meditated more and learned how to breathe properly,
Right.
you know, to reduce our stress, to relax our minds, to calm our bodies down, and get in there and not constantly have this high level of stress, which all Americans have. It doesn't, the thing about stress is that everyone's being impacted. It's not just Black people, it's all people.
Right.
But if we are, you know, able to kind of tap in and do things on a day-to-day basis, not just when you're in crisis mode, but learn how to take these techniques and integrate it into your daily life, then you can see our population being healthier, living
Right.
longer, aging well,
Right.
you know, and getting past the 50 mark and
Exactly.
still being okay. Like,
Right. So why do you think we are more reactive than proactive when it comes down to our health?
well, I think that gets into some historical aspects of our community, right? And it also gets into a lack of knowledge. And I think that you have a lot of people, and this is just my my little theory of which, you know, I'm still tweaking. But you have a lot of people who are birthing children. They haven't quite mastered certain elements of discipline in their own lives. And then they have children and they're passing on bad traits and bad habits to their kids. Just straight up. You know, a lot of people don't want to hear that. But I think that when younger people are taught discipline at an early age, we're taught how to eat well. We're taught how to have control over our emotions.
Right.
And our thought forms. You know, we understand how to know ourselves and pay attention to how we feel. Like if you eat a burger, do you really feel good after you eat that
Right.
hamburger? Do you really feel good? Or, you know, are you just responding to certain elements of the blood in the meat, right?
Right.
Or the smells and the
Right.
cheese and all of that. Like, do you really feel good after you eat that? So if we're teaching children at an early age to pay attention to the responses that they have when they're doing certain things and engaging in certain environments, as they age, as they get older, then they're able to better kind of understand cause and effect. You know, and it's not to say that adults can't get that lesson. It's not to say that adults cannot be reprogrammed, if you would. But adults tend to then get more of their ego involved and are not willing to do the work.
Right.
Because, like you said, there's a certain level of comfort and just plain out laziness,
Right.
lack of discipline.
Right.
And the more that you create a habit, the harder it is to break a habit. So I feel like if you're getting the children when they're young and they're teaching practices from parent to child, And the children can even go out and influence each other. Because maybe my friends don't have discipline, I have discipline at 12, then I can teach another 12-year-old, another 14-year-old what these practices are.
Right.
And how they make me a healthier, more balanced individual.
Absolutely. I know when I coach clients, I get to the point, if I have them do like a weigh-in and I'm not seeing the results, I say, okay, we're going to have an accountability conversation. And I say, because when I reach out to you on a daily basis and I ask you what you're eating, you tell me you eating the stuff, but I'm not seeing the changes.
Right.
So if you eating what in the realm of what I'm asking you to, but yet you're not losing any weight, I know that you're not really eating what you're supposed to be eating.
Right.
You just telling me what you wanted me to hear. So I have to ask you why you feel the need to not want to actually put the work in to do better and be better.
Right.
And a lot of them they don't know. They feel like they're going to miss out on something.
Right.
When it comes down to food. And I said, but, you have kids. This health thing is real. And at any given time, you can be taken away. And how would you parents, you instill a lifestyle to your kids. So if you're overweight and you're not exercising, you're not eating healthily, and you teaching that to your kids, and then the kids gonna do the same thing, like you said, they're gonna be passed down to the next thing.
That's right.
So I said, at what point are you gonna try to break the cycle? Because because what kids believe is what you see is what you be.
Right.
So I was a foodie. I love food, but my father and my mother both instilled some sort of discipline when it comes down to food and exercise. So even if I got to the point where I was overeating, I knew that I had to turn on exercise-wise to get it done. So I just think like you said, we got to do better with our mindset, how we see food,
Right.
the love of food, and all that kind of stuff, and the fear, especially with women, and men could do it too, but especially women, the fear of if they lose weight, that the men won't find them attractive.
But see, that's definitely a Southern thing, right? So I grew up in California,
Right.
where being thin, at least at a certain point in time, was like all the rage. But of course, things evolve, right? And so now, big bottoms are in.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so even that is requiring some women to have to exercise, right? They have to do the little crunches to get in there and, build the glute muscles, right? So that's actually kind of a positive thing in a way. It's kind of a twisted little positive, but it's still a positive. But essentially people really shouldn't be so attached to the aesthetic unless the aesthetic is like helping guide them to understand what's going on with their bodies. Like, for instance, a fat stomach, right? Now, some people might think, oh, you're being superficial because you want to have a flat stomach. However, if you really look at it, Chinese Taoists talk about if the gut extends beyond the chest, or in women's cases, the breast, you have probably a medical issue.
Yep.
Like, you have to be able to pay attention to what is going on in your digestive tract. Like, what is happening? Are you able to even properly digest your food? You're eating all these things, but are you actually getting the nutrition out of it?
Right.
So in that example, yeah, you need to pay attention to what's going on to the aesthetics of your body to understand whether you may or may not have some imbalances. If your body is bruising easily for no reason, someone just touches you and you bruise, you need to figure out what's going on to where you're bruising so easily without really having, had some kind of, damage or whatever. You
Right.
haven't run into a wall. Like, why is your, what's going on with your blood?
Mm-hmm.
People need to be able to understand that if you know yourself, it's easier to say when something's normal versus when something's abnormal.
Exactly. It's crazy because it's funny, and we have this love-hate thing with going to the bathroom.
Right.
And when I do the detox, and people say, "Well, is it gonna make me go to the bathroom a
Right.
lot?"
Of course.
I say yes.
We hope it does.
I say that's the whole intention, because a lot of us have between 5 and as much as 50 pounds of feces in us, and we gotta release it. And I said 75% of us are chronically constipated.
Right.
And so I said, I asked men and women, I said, how many times you go to the bathroom in a day? And I'm so surprised to hear everybody saying like once.
Right. And most people don't know that after you eat, you should go to the bathroom.
Right.
It's after every meal, you should have a bowel movement.
Exactly.
As uncomfortable as that sounds, as strange as it sounds. And I don't know at what point there became a stigma. I mean, perhaps there's some logistical reasons behind the stigma. I mean, it could have this is weird, but it could have a lot to do with restrooms themselves
Right.
and plumbing. Right. We're in this newer world
Right.
in America where bathrooms are a thing. And it takes a lot to maintain a restroom. It takes a lot to maintain a water system. It takes a lot to to run a building that
Right.
operates toilets.
Right.
But it's very freeing to go out in the woods and to knock that out. And as a matter of fact, it becomes a natural fertilizer.
Right.
So we're so far removed from some of our ancient techniques, right? We're so accustomed to all these modern conveniences that we have strayed away from what is real, what's genuine, and what's true. And so, I met this woman years ago who was married and had children, and she refused to have a bowel movement in her house when her husband was home. I don't know what kind of ailments this lady is suffering to this day, because she was basically constraining herself from doing something natural.
Right.
That's crazy.
Right.
I
I agree, because when people actually go through the process of the detox, they start to see their skin clears up.
Right.
A lot of times their blood pressure goes down, their blood sugar levels drop down.
Right. And you flush out parasites.
Exactly.
Right.
The parasites, the mucoid plaque, that's all kind of stuff. So, I try to, they see it.
Right.
I'll show pictures of it, and they'll see it, and then they be like, they see that it grosses them out, and then I say, well, this person lost 9 pounds in 2 days because he had flushed out his, the mucoid plaque. And that's all they saw, is they lost 9 pounds in 2 days.
Right. Vanity once again.
But they didn't. But then when you give them the process of how you gotta get that done, they don't want to do it.
Of course not, because it requires discipline.
Right.
So
tell everybody, what is a Reiki practitioner? 'Cause I don't think everybody understands what it is.
So Reiki is a Japanese word, kind of just in a nutshell, meaning the universal life force energy. And so it really is about utilizing energy, which we know all things are animated, right? Energy is everything.
Right.
So as a Reiki practitioner, I'm on the 3rd level. It's taken several years for me to acquire that level. I intentionally went slow so that I could understand more about what the work really is. But as a practitioner, I am acting as a vessel of that energy, of which we all have. All of us have the ability to heal ourselves. And so between myself and the recipient of the Reiki, we are in a moment of me saying, I'm going to utilize this life force energy, and it's going to channel through my hands, the palms of my hands, and I may or may not have to touch that individual in order to then use this life force energy to help balance out the chakras. And there's a lot of different literature out there about the chakras, but it's a Sanskrit word that really talks about the wheels of life. So they correspond, as many people are kind of becoming more aware of, like the crown chakra, the third eye chakra, the throat, the heart, and so as a Reiki practitioner, I'm helping you to balance those chakras out through intention and through being a vessel, but not necessarily like I am doing something to the individual.
Right.
But I am allowing that energy to flow through my hands.
Now, is this similar to the same? Was the Reiki practitioner it's the same as being an energy healer?
Yes.
Okay.
It's one and the same.
Okay.
There are a lot of different people developing different systems with different names, but it really all comes back to energy at the end of the day.
Okay. And then so if someone was interested in seeing you, can you kind of like explain what the process would be like?
Sure. So, I mean, I love when people are curious about it because, again, it's not me doing anything per se other than being a vessel and a channel. And so, I create, and most practitioners are going to create a safe space, one. It's much like a massage, minus the touch. So you're going to lie down on a massage table, and there will probably be beautiful, peaceful music, and perhaps some aromatherapy going on. So amazing scents, whether it's a candle or some other essential oils being used, right? Music, perhaps flowers, an open window, things of that nature. And then I'm going to place my hands over each of the chakras. And there are different levels of practitioners. I always tell people, when you're deciding to choose a Reiki practitioner, you should definitely ask that person, do they do Reiki on themselves? The answer should be yes. Because a person who says, no, I don't do Reiki on myself is an imbalanced individual. It's much like going to a doctor or practitioner who doesn't really believe in health. That's crazy.
Right.
Why would you go to someone who, doesn't care about their body and allow them to touch your body? And even on another level, you've heard about, if you're choosing a hairdresser and that person's hair looks crazy, why would you go to a hairdresser and have them touching your hair? Right. So it's the same with the Reiki practitioner. You want to be able to choose someone that you feel is projecting light and is truly wanting your health and wellness, because they want the health and wellness of all beings.
Right.
So it is a lifestyle. It does have spiritual elements to it, but it's not a religion. It's not a thing that requires you to necessarily believe, but it does require you to be open, because with any healing modality, right, your mind is powerful. So if you're sitting up there saying, this doesn't work and I'm not down for this, well, first of all, why are you there?
Right.
But secondly, you're probably blocking yourself from having a healing experience because you're allowing your mentalism to interfere with the free-flowing energy that you're saying you want to bring healing into your body.
Right.
So
because like you said, everything is energy.
Right, it is.
And so in order to attract more of a certain thing that you want, you got to connect to that energy level. So even with I was reading this book and we're talking about, it's like abundance, and you want to have a spiritual abundance. It's how you see spirituality, to how you gonna attract more of it. How you see money,
right?
It's going to how you attract more of it. If you feel that money is evil, then you're not going to attract it, because you feel money is evil. But if you elevate your mind on the same energy level to where you can attract more money to you, it's going to come your way. And that's what I think everybody don't understand. Even as I spiritually increase, I realize that who you attract to you is basically 9 times out of 10 we are on the same energy levels.
Right.
And so
yeah, definitely vibrations.
Yeah.
Right.
So can you speak on that, the vibrations part? I think
Yeah.
people hear it, but they don't really understand it.
Well, if we are walking about this planet and we're like a tuning fork and we resonate out and there's this etheric energy or astral energy and our thoughts become things, then we are attractive forces, right? And sometimes it does get a little interesting when you think about it because, you know, people have a lot of doubts like, well, you know, why would people attract an atrocity to themselves and things of that nature? And then it gets into some heavy spiritual discussions, right?
Right.
But we are attractors and our minds are very powerful. So when we talk about things like visualization is a powerful tool.
Powerful thing. Yeah.
So if you say you want abundance but you're constantly thinking, I'm broke, I ain't got no money, why is my life so hard? And then somebody, you know, drops a $5 bill, but because you're so focused on your lack, you don't even see the $5 on the floor because you're so caught up in this moment of distress and not having faith and not believing in what you say you want to attract. Then that means that you haven't really been doing what you said you need to do.
Right.
You know? So vibration is just another, it's a more direct outward effective energy. And so you have to, you know, really be in tune with yourself in order to even understand what level you're vibrating on.
Yeah.
Because you are going to bring to yourself certain kinds of experiences. And of course, some of these things are just deemed to be.
Right.
These are things that you had to go through. But then it gets into more conversations around, do you actually believe in reincarnation? Do you believe that you came to the planet for a purpose? And whether you believe in those things or not, you definitely came to the planet for a purpose.
Right.
You may not know what it is because you haven't found it yet.
And you haven't found it, and you haven't been one with yourself enough to be open to receive or understand what it is.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Right. So yeah, you know, my good friend has a little quote: "Your vibe attracts your tribe." It's a great quote.
Yeah.
And it's very true.
It's very true.
And sometimes you might be vibing on a certain level to where maybe there's a person you really like, but that person doesn't like you. Doesn't mean that person is bad, and it doesn't mean you're bad. It just means that you all are on different vibrational paths at the moment.
Absolutely.
And your paths may intersect again. You have to, you know, resonate, though, in a certain vibration for that person to come back into your life experience. And maybe you won't. It just depends on you, you know, and maybe you don't need that person in your life at that time.
Right.
So, you know, I think that the more that we pay attention to these beautiful gifts that the universe provides to us, that the Creator gives to us, and we accept our present moments, it is much easier to live life in a balanced way because we say, you know, maybe it doesn't feel good for a reason, but there's some other thing I need to focus on at this time in my life.
Exactly. And I think, you know, and we were talking about this off the air, you know, but what you were saying, like the vibrations and all that kind of stuff, a lot of times the purpose, everything is purposeful.
Right.
And relationships is purposeful as well. So all relationships are not going to be for a lifetime. It's for that purpose. And when that purpose ends, you have to be able to release it.
Right.
And I think that's the problem a lot of people have, whether it's the purpose of the relationship they have with a young lady or a guy for the ladies, friendships, a job.
Right.
You know, the purpose of that situation has ended, and a lot of times we don't want it to end because we want to
Hold
on to it.
Right.
And then
With some tight fists too.
Right.
Right.
And then eventually the universe is going to make it to where you have no choice but to release it.
Right. Yeah, and it's funny because like so that for me gets into like emotions, because I know that there's been, and this is probably not just the Black community, but it's been just a thing all around where, like you said, maybe a couple was in a relationship and one of the people wanted to move forward and the other person just couldn't let go. So I know in the last decade, you know, there have been some, I don't know the statistics, but there have been a lot of crime rates around past partners seeking out revenge on a partner because they broke up. I mean, what is going on?
Right.
You know, it's like we have to be able to find our self-worth enough to know that just because this person broke up with you, it doesn't mean that, one, it's the end of the world and that something is wrong with you. You know, learn how to move on. Learn how to master your emotions enough to say, like, it's okay that this person's moving on. And I need to do the same.
Right.
You know, there's some other lesson. There's some other thing that I can accomplish. There's some other thing that I need. And so, you know, our emotions are
It's major.
so major.
And we are very emotional people.
Right.
Our race is very emotional. And a lot of times we act off our emotions.
Right.
And a lot of times, you know, when we act off our emotions, it's not very productive.
Right.
And so, like, if I'm having a disagreement with somebody and I can see whether myself or the person is, you know, in their emotions, then I stop the conversation. And people will say, well, how dare you think you could just end the conversation? I said, because I can.
Right.
Because you're in your emotions and I'm in mine. So when two people are emotional, things could be said or done that you can't take back.
That's right.
So then, therefore, let's wait until we are at cooler heads and then having a, you know, a conversation will not be in all our emotions. And I just think a lot of times, even when stuff that goes on in the world, we react off emotions.
Right.
And, you know, say and do things based off our emotions because our feelings is hurt.
Right.
Or whatever. And, you know, we might not be open to what is possibly being said because of our emotions.
Right.
We was talking about at Lyris' show yesterday. They talked last week. They talked about, you know, Kanye West, and one of them was just talking about how we don't have to completely agree, but where the problem comes down to is that a lot of times they do agree with the point of fact there's no free thought. That if our thought process is not aligned with everybody else in the black community, then we're, you know, Uncle Tom's, we this and we that. And why can't we all have our own personal thoughts and then from there grow? Because, you know, so I want you to talk about, I know we vibed off the whole mindset thing because, you know, we are pretty much more free thinkers. And, you know, I want you to talk about mindset and why is it so important?
Well, I want to say to that point around, like, kind of putting people in a box if they don't agree with you. If you know yourself and you trust yourself, it's a little bit harder for you to be impacted by other people if you're doing your work.
Right.
You know, and I think that, I mean, the ego is something that we'll never be able to completely get rid of.
Right.
We're always going to have to deal with the ego. It's just a part of our human existence and our makeup. You know, but if you trust yourself, you know who you are, then why is it such a big deal when someone else has a difference of opinion? Now, I know that was last week's topic, and I kind of find it to be a little bit of a distractive force around Kanye in general. But it is a good indicator of where we are at in the society, you know? And we do have to get to a point where we are confident in who we are, to where it's not that you don't care what people think about you, but you kind of don't care what people think about you.
You have to not.
But not when you're going around harming people
Right.
with your words and
Right.
harming people with your perspective, to the sense where, like in Kanye's example, as an example, you know, he's at a higher level in terms of like people listening to him. Like he's got some real tangible issues with what he's saying and doing. You know what I mean? He needs to be more responsible,
Right.
period.
Right.
You know, but as individuals and collectively, we do have to be more confident in who we are, instead of going about like constantly trying to convince people to believe what we're saying.
Right. The need to please.
Right. That's the ego.
yeah.
It's so major. You
Yeah.
got to get that under wraps.
Yep.
Because at the end of the day, you know, people are going to learn from you according to what you do in your life.
Right.
So you can talk all day long, but what are your actions? How do your actions match your words? You know, people are going to see what you're actually doing. That's why, like with children, oh, you know, my mom told me not to smoke, but then I see her outside smoking a cigarette every night trying to hide from me, or she comes in the house and she smells like cigarette smoke, but she's telling me not to smoke. So it's all these words.
But it doesn't apply.
Right. You know, so that's what we have to definitely get to a point where we know ourselves and we know what we need in order to survive.
And in order to get to that point, we have to do the work.
Right.
And I think that's the hardest part.
Yeah, it's hard, but it's worth it. You know, so working at Holistic Stress Control Institute, you know, this organization was started in the 80s by Jenny Trotter, African-American woman who was basically responding to what was happening around the Atlanta missing child murders. And a lot of children were very afraid after, it was like, 2 or 3 years of children coming up missing. And it really impacted the African-American community, especially in Georgia. So she formed this organization as a response to that crisis in our community, so that she could teach children how to respond to the stress of the fear, you know? And we are in a time where, I mean, we see what's going on with the police brutality. It's a real thing, you know, and I'm certain that most Black people, when you're driving or you're walking down the street and you see a police car, your heart's going to skip a little bit. You're going to get a little palpitation, or you're going to get butterflies in your stomach out of fear, because you don't know. Are they going to pull me over? Are they looking at me? They're going to stop me while I'm walking, whatever. So we're in a time, you know, where it's always been stressful.
Right.
But it's very, very stressful because of what we're seeing on social media and on the news. And so we do have to get to a point where we can manage that stress and be able to know what is a legitimate fear versus what's an irrational fear.
Right.
And that's how stress really can degenerate into other things. Because when you're walking around with this chronic level of stress and you don't have any mechanism to help avert that and de-stress,
Right.
then your body's in trouble.
Exactly.
So even though that cop may not pull you over, you're still reeling in, oh my goodness. And then maybe, you know, your muscles tense up. You know, there could be so many different reactions, because that's what stress is. You know, stress is like a change to your body,
Right.
according to your external stimuli or even your own inner stimuli. So we have to get to a point where we're able to go home, or whatever point of the day, whether it's the morning, the evening, whatever point of the day, we have to start taking the techniques that are available to us and utilizing them so that we can de-stress and make sure that our bodies are being maintained and that we're staying within balance.
What's some example of techniques they could use to de-stress?
One of the biggest ones is deep breathing. That is something you don't need any exotic training to do. People need to learn how to breathe from their abdomen. And in through the nose, out through the nose.
Okay.
In through the nose, out through the nose.
Okay.
Yeah, you get a more pure line of oxygen you
Okay.
know, and there are a lot of different techniques, especially like within yoga practices, where people are doing some really amazing breath work. There are many different types of breath work, and you know, you can Google that if you want.
Yeah.
You know, look up yoga breath work or just breath work techniques. But being able to breathe and allowing your abdomen to extend out like you're filling up a balloon as you're taking the breath in, and then to contract where your abdomen is going back towards your spine as you breathe out. And, you know, kind of incorporating some visualization with that. So, you know, you're breathing in and you're saying, I breathe in love and I breathe in light. And then as you're breathing out, saying, I release all stress and all fear. You know, if you can combine that as you're walking down the street or driving your car, and you're in this moment of fear, you're in this moment of stress, that's going to help get your body back to a relaxed state.
Okay.
And the more our bodies are relaxed and our minds are calm, the easier it is for us to have healing and balance.
Right. And one of the things when people come to me for health coaching, and I send them an assessment, and I tell them that we all have 4 primary foods, and it's not food. It's your spirituality, your career, your relationships, and your lifestyle. Now, lifestyle comes with stress, and so I asked them where they're out of balance at. And it's amazing to me that most of them say everything. And so, and I'm like, okay, so what are you doing to try to get back in balance in one of these primary foods? And they say nothing.
Wow.
Or they don't know where to begin or what to do to try like gain balance. And so I just take one at a time. Like, okay, so let's which one you think would be easier for you?
Right.
And, you know, 9 times out of 10 they say in relationships. So that's like the most key thing that everybody want to deal with. And, you know, so let's deal with that.
Right.
Because, you know, when you're out of balance, you know, there's the stress that plays a part of your body. And then 75% of us are emotional eaters. So then we got the stress of the relationship or the issue in the relationship that's causing you harm to your body, and then you're overeating or over drinking because of the stress of that relationship or whatever situation may be.
Right.
And so that's crazy that, you know, we gotta be able to assess it and then actually try to do the work behind it.
Well, it's funny because I don't know if it's like the fairy tales and all of that, and I don't even want to, because I've had people talk about, you know, the word romance and how it equates back to Roman society, blah, 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 all of that. And that's great. Love is a beautiful thing. Love is real. Love is tangible. Love is necessary. But there's a point where, like, we want love so bad that we're always looking for that love outside of ourselves. We always think, oh, I need a man. I need a woman. I need a whatever, thinking that this other person is going to fulfill you. And it's never going to be that way.
Until you fulfill yourself.
You have to fulfill yourself. You have to, it gets back to knowing thyself, but if it also goes back to attraction, right? If you're an unhealthy individual, you're toxic, you're imbalanced, you're not doing your work, but you're out there seeking a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a husband or a wife or whatever, what kind of person do you think you're really going to attract?
Right.
You know what I mean? So, of course, relationships are stressful because we're all sovereign beings. The Creator made us that way. It's a beautiful thing that we have autonomy over our choice. So if I'm sitting up here talking about, I want all this amazing features in this individual, but I'm not willing to do the work myself, then you're going to attract someone. You might attract many someones, but whether that person's your life partner or not, and whether you're willing to accept them for who they are and where they are in life is a whole nother level.
Right.
So, of course, relationships are stressful because, you know, that relates like to your second chakra. You know, it's like the family. And the second chakra in the body relates to your reproductive organs. So most people have a relationship, right, first, and then the babies come. So if you're having children with somebody that you're not in balance with, now you're going to create some more imbalanced beings. It's not to say that automatically the children that you birth are going to be bad children, right? But you're already giving them an environment that isn't as balanced as it could be, because maybe there isn't really love between the two partners.
Right.
You see a lot of people, whether they're married or not, having children, and they really don't even like each other.
Right.
So what have you just created?
Right.
You know? So it is definitely a big thing where you also think about the second chakra, and that's where a lot of people accumulate belly fat, right? And that gets into belly fat. A lot of times comes from our diet, lack of exercise, but also stress. So, you know, it's very important for people to get that second chakra in order, and to also get that third chakra, which is your solar plexus, which is your willpower, which is also knowing your purpose.
Right.
You got to get that in order, because if you want someone who's wonderful and great, you got to be wonderful and great. And it would really be an interesting society to see people who get themselves to a masterful state of being before attracting their mates. We would have a completely different family structure. We would have a completely different community if people actually got themselves to an optimal state before attracting their mate. That rhymed. I like it. I'm sorry. You gotta write that down.
That was good. But that's true though.
Yeah.
Because people ask me, you know, I date. However, I'm not like full-fledged into it.
Right.
Because I, like you said, I'm working on my purpose. And when you focus on that, then as you become into your purpose, then the universe will bring the right person to you.
Right.
That's aligned with who you are and where you're going.
Yep.
But if you're not in your purpose, you might meet someone, and then once your shift changes and you start working towards your purpose, that person may no longer be aligned with who you are.
Right. That's right. And it gets back to, is now we're in full circle where it's time to move on to bigger, better lessons. But you're so caught up in, oh, this is absolutely the person for me. Like, you didn't come to the planet with that person most likely. So you're not going to leave the planet at the same time that person leaves. But it is interesting, the emotional stress and the emotional connection that soulmates have. Like, you'll see a lot of older couples, maybe the one spouse will leave the planet, they'll transition, or as some people say, they'll die. And then the other one leaves pretty quickly after. But it's that level of distress. It's beyond stress. Distress is like this state of like, I cannot function
without that person,
you know, and without that person, without that emotional connection, and then they transition too. So, I mean, that one's a little bit different, you know, because if in that case, that second individual has a strong family network, they have loved ones who help keep them present to remind them that, yes, this person has moved on, but you're still here. You still have some life to live. That's a different scenario. I've seen many couples where that has happened. The second individual has a strong network of loved ones who help them sustain their life. And this is why so many of us, especially like this is our mental health, National Mental Health Month. One thing that a lot of us really need, especially people who go through depression and some imbalanced mental processes, you have to have a strong network, whether it's your blood family or your chosen family, which is still relevant. It's about people that love you enough to check in on you, to feed you when you need to be fed on all the levels you talked about, mind, body, spirit, emotional, financial, whatever. But you have to have people in your life that you love and you can reciprocate back and forth with. This is something that our community, we suffer from a lot. You see a lot of homeless people. Why are they homeless? Where's their family? Where are their loved ones to stay? I'm not going to allow you to be sleeping under that bridge. I'm not going to allow you to be out there, fighting these demons by yourself. Like, no way. Get in this house. Here's a room. Here's a bed. Here's a couch. What's going on.
Right.
So.
I like that.
Yeah.
So, the mindset is a powerful thing, and I think a lot of times, our mindset is in a state of fear. A lot of times, and lack stems from fear as well.
Yeah.
Why do you think we focus so much on the lack and not on being the gratitude of what we do have?
Some of that is programming. We get it in our televisions, our movies. We get it in different ways. It's a scary world if you allow it to be. It can be frightening out there, especially when you go it alone and you don't have certain spiritual practices to keep you peace and to keep you, to be able to face those fears. And like, I love prayer. I know a lot of people talk about meditation, but I always combine the two.
You do.
I pray first and then I meditate. And it's just something that I've done for many years. I kind of taught myself how to meditate, and then I learned whether, I was able to tweak it over the years.
And if somebody asked me why you do both, I said because prayer is me speaking to God.
That's right.
And meditation is God speaking to me.
That's right. Yep, you got it.
So I have to speak to him, but then I have to be still enough to allow him to speak to me.
Right, gotta listen.
So you gotta do both. Because sometimes he can't help you unless you talk to him and tell him what you need from him.
Right.
But then too, you gotta be able to be still enough and be open, have an open heart space to receive what he's trying to tell you as well.
Right.
And that's where I think there's a lot of times the disconnect comes with people too as well.
Yeah, fear is it's a powerful emotion. When we have fear, it really, to me, requires logic. Like, if I'm going to be afraid of something, I need to understand if that is a legitimate fear or not. Like, what am I afraid of? Oh, I hear this sound outside my window, and I think it's, a scary monster. It's a ridiculous example, but maybe if I combine my curiosity and my logic, and I actually go out and look out the window, and I see, it's not actually a monster. It's just a big old, truck outside revving up and making a peculiar sound that I'm not accustomed to hearing. A lot of times our fears are just things that we haven't explored enough to understand that it really isn't as bad as you thought.
Right.
So, like, for me, I think that one of the things our community has to get better at, especially with social media. Social media, I say this all the time, is very dangerous. It has some great attributes to it. But it can be so dangerous in that we start recycling information that someone said and instantly, without even trying to get proof.
Right.
Without even trying to get logical or scientific and show real evidence, we automatically take certain things as true.
Right.
And then our emotions get caught up in it, and we don't even, once we get to a point where we are convinced about something and we believe in it, you can show people science and evidence all day, and they're like,
It's too late by that time, because once that first fact, the first thing is out there and they believe to be true, you can, like I said, you can have the data or the information that shows that that's what they said is not true.
Right.
But it's too late, because they regardless of what you show them, they already believe what the other person has said.
Right.
And it's too late, and it's like that's dangerous.
It is. Well, and especially for the Black community, there are some things that are legitimate fears. For instance, I had mentioned to you earlier about posting something on Facebook around our event where we talked about health screenings, and a lot of people were not happy with the idea of us having health screenings at our event. But the thing about health screenings, and I can understand why Black people are concerned about the medical industry. There have been experimentations. There have been a lot of issues that things have happened to our bodies in this particular industry. But we're to a point where we need to get better at protecting each other when we go into these institutions to get work done.
Right.
We need to get better about finding out from our physicians what we need to do to sustain our bodies. Doesn't mean that you have to take the medicines or do any of that.
Right.
But to at least be able to know what's going on with your body and to get a second opinion, a third opinion, to have someone give you a baseline, to give you some information about at least where to start looking so you can come up with a solution is important.
I agree. And the thing is, it's good to go to the doctor, get to understand where you at. And then that's where a wellness advocate like yourself or a health coach like me come to play.
Right.
Because you go to the doctor, find out where you at.
Right.
Then you come to us. Because the difference between me and that doctor, the doctor doesn't. Most of those doctors go to medical school and does not take not one class in nutrition.
Right.
They can't tell you what to do, nutrition wise.
Right.
If you ask your doctor, did you take any nutrition classes while you going to medical school? They will tell you no.
Right.
So how can they tell you what you need to do health wise to heal you? Because they don't have any nutritional background. Now if they send you to a nutritionist, that's one thing. A lot of times they don't do that.
Right.
So it's up to you to seek out people who does have the background and the knowledge that can help you heal you, because all they're going to know to do is to give you a medication.
Right. Yeah, that's real. I mean, I went to one of my doctors once. I had like some kind of flu or some kind of cold symptoms or whatever. And they wanted to prescribe me all these meds, and I looked at the doctor. I said, I don't need that. And they were like, you're right. And I thought that was an interesting moment because I know myself enough. I know how to research enough. And thank you for the internet, right? Because we can find out so much information. I'm not saying that, we can always self-assess in the way that we can diagnose all of our issues.
Right.
But WebMD, so many different articles are out there, on the internet to tell us, like, here are some symptoms and here are some things you can do. And me knowing myself, I knew I just had like a little cold that was turning into a flu. Like, why do I need all these meds?
Right.
I just needed bed rest, fluids, water, some echinacea. Right. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't need all these extra things.
Exactly.
And so you have to get to a point where you like really know yourself. And you can say, yeah, I'm going to look this up before I take these medicines. Because I know even my own mother, she was on a lot of meds. And eventually she started kind of weaning off of them, and she noticed a big difference in how she felt. And I'm really happy and proud of her for that, because there was a time where she was just taking all these things and her body was degenerating. So we do have to be cautious and aware of that.
Very cautious and if you feed your body with the proper foods, it will heal you better and faster than that medication will ever do.
Right.
And it's you could Google on YouTube or anything like that. It's all kinds of stories.
It's a lot.
Showing how they healed themselves stage 4 cancer, and now they're fine.
Right.
And they did, they went vegan, plenty of water, no vitamin D, and all this kind of stuff. They took supplements and they ate plant-based and became fine.
Right.
I had a friend, and the doctors was mad at her because she didn't want her mother to do certain things, like chemotherapy and all this kind of stuff, because she felt it's going to make it worse than actually help her. And they tried to sue her.
Wow.
So that just tells you where their mindset is.
Yeah.
You know, because she's not harming that person. You know, she's not going to harm her mother. But she felt that she could do something just as good as that doctor could by trying to help her nutritionally. And so that's what I think that's some of the things that we got to be more aware of and be more, like you said, learn ourselves and learn what can I need to eat, what I need to drink. Well, maybe I need a lack of sleep. You know, that's a major issue, part of our lifestyle. We don't sleep enough.
Right. Yeah, we don't get enough rest.
Because the rest is that's when the body needs it the most, because that's the chance the body uses to heal the body. But we're not sleeping.
Right.
We don't get the body a chance to heal.
That's right. The reset button is rest.
Exactly.
That's major, you know, and a lot of it has to do with our lifestyle. You know, we just haven't set up our life in order to be able to do that.
Right.
And it gets back into the families. You know, you have, like we just had Mother's Day. There's a lot of phenomenal women out there who are mothers. Some are single mothers and trying to rear children by themselves. Some are still working, you know, and having to deal with this 24/7 on type business. Like, when do they get to rest? You know? But if you have a certain family structure in place where you have support, it's like, okay, I need a 2-hour nap, or at least to rest my eyes or get some things done or meditate. It's a very important element. And I know it's not as easy as it sounds, but it's necessary for us to, like, put these things into place for ourselves. I know some women who are very good at finding ways to do yoga and meditate with their children.
Right.
Which is also teaching the kids early on these disciplines.
Yep.
And that's important. You know? And I think that's what we're going to have to do. I mean, you know, you see some moms out there who they go jogging and they have the kids with them or whatever. It's not predominantly the Black, you know, community doing that. Right. But it needs to be. Right. We need to get to that point where we can throw on those jogging pants and do what we need to do to get our health in order, even as parents.
Right. Because, you know, when it comes to that, you know, if one person, like I had a young lady, you know, it's her husband, got kids or whatever. I said, who does the cooking? I do. Then there's no discussion.
Right.
You're the cook, so everybody eats what you cook. So if you're on a healthy journey, right, the entire family's on a healthy journey. There's no discussion about that.
Right.
I said, you know, you once you try, the kids don't have an option. They're going to eat what you cook.
Right. Yeah.
Your husband, or if the husband is the cook and the wife don't cook, and what you're cooking, the spouse doesn't have a discussion. You know, especially if everybody needs to be healthy anyway.
Right.
You know, so you like you said, you know, so you know we gotta take it upon ourselves to figure out a way to make it happen.
Yeah, and you have to be creative. I mean,
exactly.
It goes back to discipline. A lot of people make excuses for why they can't do certain things, but you have to figure out how your family, how your household operates. And then try to streamline the process, almost make it like a little business. I mean, I hate to say it,
right.
But one of the reasons why I think the Black community suffers a lot is we are not good with processes. We don't like timelines. We just kind of get it as we get it. Right. You know, and instead of incorporating certain kinds of structured, mathematical, linear
systems,
applications and systems, there's nothing wrong with that stuff. It doesn't have to be your whole life.
Right.
But those things are, the creator came up with, you know, these different ways for us to live our life for a reason. We got to tap into it. We can't keep making excuses and saying that, you know, we didn't know certain things, especially in the 21st century in 2018. Just too much information out there.
The internet, and Google, you could be your best friend, and you could figure out whatever you want to know, you can find out.
Right. And I hope that doesn't sound too judgy, right? Because I know a lot of people, oh, don't judge me. I'm doing it the best I can. That's a real thing. But there has to get up to a point where we're not just surviving and always in the survival mode. This is why when it goes back to talking about mindset, when we're constantly in a lack perspective, then that's what our experience is going to be.
Right.
When we start saying, you know what, there has to be a solution, whether you have to pray for 40 days and 40 nights or whatever your spiritual process is, there is going to be a solution to every problem that you have. Every problem.
Right.
So I think that that's why we do suffer, because we're not willing to look for those solutions. But every problem has a solution.
Yep.
Even one as complicated as being a parent and not having enough time in the day to do certain things.
Right. And everything that happened to you for a reason or a purpose. It's up to you to sit down and be still enough to figure out what did I supposed to learn from this situation.
Right.
Why did this occur to me? And why not only why, but what do I supposed to learn?
Right.
So you can then learn that lesson and move forward.
Right.
I think that's part of the problem. We don't want to learn the lesson. We don't want to something happened to us. It's like, oh, why me?
Right.
Why not you? Not us saying why me? Okay, God, universe, wherever you believe in, what am I supposed to learn from this?
Right. Yep. But then that's when it gets into, being a spiritual being. I know that, there's always debate around the difference between religion and spirituality. And I value them both. And I think that you can have one without the other. But being a spiritual person, in my mind, is more about the application of it. It's the application part where you are actually living your life in a certain way to where when things happen to you, there is a deep understanding. And then that understanding becomes an action and it's applied.
Yep.
Versus where I think sometimes religion is more passive.
Right.
And you're just kind of allowing someone to tell you what the principles are, and you're going about this kind of ritualized way of doing things, but you're not really trying to seek a deeper understanding or meaning all the time. You're not always applying it to your life in a way that helps you have higher understanding. You're just kind of like accepting things as they are because this is what the religion says. Right. But that's a whole nother conversation.
I just think because when whether it's, if you're having issues at the job, it may be, you might have to understand, if you have issues at the job, unless it's self-inflicted where you're doing some things, but then sometimes the purpose of what you learned, was supposed to have learned from that job, has ended, and it's time for you to look for somewhere else,
right?
Because it's another blessing out there for you that's going to take you to a higher level, because the purpose of that opportunity is now ended, right? And it's when you start having that unbalance in that position, it's time for you to start looking elsewhere, because the purpose has ended. And I think that's something I had to learn, right? And as I grew spiritually, I said, when I started seeing the uneasiness, okay, now I get it. Okay, you're telling me. You're making it hard for me right now because it's time for me to move forward.
Right, you have to be uncomfortable. Right. To get moving.
Exactly.
Right.
And so I think that's one of the things. And I think that's part of the problem too, is we don't want to be uncomfortable. Right. We want to be in a state of comfortability.
Right. Yep.
But you can't grow if you're comfortable.
That's true. I mean, you can grow. It's probably going to be a very slow process.
Slow process.
Right. It won't be at the same rate. And I think that's kind of like, because one of the challenges that I'm faced with in this program that I'm working on is trying to touch people who really need the information. Like we consistently end up kind of being like able to preach to the choir. So here we're offering like these free health education classes. We're doing this free programming, and there are certain people who do not want access to that information. We're telling you and showing you and teaching you and demonstrating some real techniques on how to be a healthier individual. Right. And some folks still don't want that. That's very interesting.
It is, and it's something that I had to deal with. when I first decided I was gonna start going to business for myself, transition into that full time, I had met with this person who's like my business coach, and she said that I know you love your people, but you are into health and wellness. You are into personal development.
Right.
Those are not things that they are embracing.
Wow.
And she said, so if you want to eat, then you have to be open to attracting other cultures, other
Right.
races, because those who are interested in that. Even with the fact that I've been trying to learn how to expand my social media so I can attract people from other countries,
Yeah.
because people in other countries are really big on personal development and wellness. And so, you have to just look outside the box. And the person said to me, in order, the best thing to do is build your brand with people who wants your help.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then when you have the money to give back, then do the free stuff and to try to give back. But she said, and this part what she said kind of bothered me. Well, and I understood what she was saying. She said a lot of times our race is not going to embrace you and I until we are embraced by the other cultures.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
When white America and the other cultures say Dion is the truth or Kevin is the truth, then that's where we'll be embraced by us.
And that's sad.
What's your thought on that?
I mean, that is a sad thing. I made a joke about, man, if we were out here offering free Coca-Cola,
Right.
everybody would have showed up to the
Right.
festival from the community.
Right.
But we were out here offering free yoga, free Tai Chi and Qigong, free dance therapy. And it was a handful of people who are already involved in their health and wellness that showed up. And that's not a problem. It was a beautiful function on the 28th. I was very happy. I did a lot of visualization that people were going to come to the event and be happy and smile. And there was such beauty at the event. The weather was beautiful. Everybody was just like that. They were happy. They were smiling. They're, very exuberant event. But knowing that, like, people like to, like you said, be into the brands. If I said free Coca-Cola, come out to the event.
Right.
They'd have showed up.
Right.
Free hot dogs, free hamburgers. They'd have showed up.
Right.
And that's just kind of deep to me. We went to West End Mall. We were out in the community and we were like promoting a community forum because we wanted to kind of tap into the community to find out what are the barriers to health and wellness. And there's something about the word wellness in a certain population that just does not resonate. So we were like passing out flyers and people were like, what is this? Like wellness, and kind of tossing the flyers back. Some are not as disrespectful, right? But just not interested. And so that is a quagmire because one of the takeaways I got from the forums that we conducted with the few people that did come was that our community typically isn't interested in health and wellness until they're sick and they've had a health, as my, Reiki practitioners, we like to say a health opportunity or a health challenge. So that is very interesting. Unless your mom or your dad or your grandparents have been through something and you were there with them witnessing that, or you yourself have been sick, a lot of people do not really think about health and wellness.
Right.
It's not integrated into the discipline of growing up into some households.
Right.
So I think it is kind of sad. And of course, perhaps it would be, you have a lot of, athletes out there they've got a lot of power. They've got a platform. You know, they're promoting health and wellness in maybe a more indirect way. Because they have to be healthy in order to be on the level of sports that they're on.
Right.
So that is a way for us to get some stronger personalities involved.
And I like the change I'm starting to see with that. You know, with like a lot of athletes coming out saying, like Kyrie and all them saying they're vegans,
right?
And how their health has changed since that. LeBron paid. I think he paid a lot of money. And he worked with some guy. I don't know if it was. I forget what he did, but he worked on his back.
Okay.
And he had no back issues this year. It was the first time in a long time.
Like massage or some kind of modality?
It was some modality. It was some kind of like holistic modality
Nice.
that he did that he paid a lot of money for, and it changed. He had no issues.
Right.
But, you know, he paid the money because he felt that he was worth it.
Right. Yeah.
And, you know, plus he wanted to, not only for himself, for, you know, for his job, but he wanted to be at his best performance all the time. And so he had to change how he did things. And I say with Kyrie, when he started going to vegan, he said that he could tell the difference how he feel.
Right.
And I think that started because I know one of the guys, when he was with Cleveland, one of the guys that used to play with Cleveland was a vegan.
Okay.
And he said he would spend a lot of money on room service when they would travel because he had to get, you know, all the side items that, you know, so he could eat because, you know, a lot of times they don't offer a lot of options
right.
for vegans.
Yeah, that's true.
So you gotta be creative.
Yes, you
how
do.
you do.
Right. I mean, things are getting better. I mean, I grew up essentially vegetarian. So in my household, we were very fortunate as kids to learn about, you know, how to do certain things when we go out to people's homes. It could be as simple as eating before you go to the function,
Right.
bringing your own food, or bring a dish that you can share with people. If you're transitioning to be a vegan and you're around a bunch of meat eaters, you could bring 2 dishes so that people could sample and all of that. So, I mean, there are a lot of different ways to kind of work around it. We're fortunate that a lot of people they have great websites with recipes.
Yeah.
That are teaching you how to make things, you know, taste really good. My friends love my cooking. A lot of my friends who are meat eaters will actually eat my vegetarian dishes.
Right.
So, you know, that is one thing that I found as another takeaway from the community forums that we conducted, is that you have to have an influencer. And that influencer could just be your best friend saying, hey, come on, Kevin, like, let's go over here and work out. You know, you have to have that accountability partner.
Right.
And someone who you love and trust. It doesn't have to be no celebrity or no athlete. It could be just your good friend saying, hey, I care about you. I see there's something going on with your body. Let's go over here and get these massages. You know what I'm saying? Let's get our feet done, get some reflexology done on our feet. You know, let's go to the steam. Let's steam a little bit, you know.
So we need to talk about the feet. Because I think the feet is like the most important. That does not get the care it's supposed to.
Goes back to stigma.
You know, foot massages, reflexology,
right?
Foot detoxes, the bionic foot baths,
right?
You know, all that is needed.
It is so needed. There's a couple of things. So there's some great places here that do reflexology from different price points all around Atlanta. Just Google, you know, affordable foot care or reflexology. You can go to Jeju and get it done for $50. You can go to Xiao for $30. You can do it at home. And actually, a couple of years ago, I broke 2 of my toes. I have fractures. And, you know, my doctor was very concerned because he's like, oh, you have a heel fracture and you're not going to, we can't do anything about it because they're toes, right? And so I started working with an amazing massage therapist, and she does reflexology. And she started telling me to visualize the bone healing properly. And I had a lot of pain. I couldn't wear heels. I couldn't wear certain shoes. I could only wear my Chuck Taylor, so go Chuck Taylor. But so she started doing a lot of massages and getting in there and really manipulating the bone and massaging the foot with oils and after soaking it and all of that. Mm-hmm. And eventually I've always massaged my own feet, mm-hmm. but kind of looking at her technique, I was getting in there and really like massaging the bone and speaking to my foot and telling my foot, I need you to heal. Mm-hmm. I need you to heal, you know, and continuing to get into that mantra and that affirmation that my foot would be healed. And within several months, mm-hmm. the bone has actually healed to a point where I can wear heels again. Mm-hmm. I can run again, because my doctor was like, you know, you're not going to be able to put pressure on this foot. You shouldn't be running. You shouldn't be doing these things.
Right.
So that is, again, another example of like mind over body.
Right.
And the power that we have through our mind to heal. So the reflexology is something that people can do on their own. If you're embarrassed about your feet, man, you have to soak them things.
Yeah.
You know?
I soak mine.
I see reactions over here. Nah. You know what, though? But the thing about it is, so the bottom of your foot, there are different points on your foot that relates to different organs in your body.
Yeah.
So the reason why people do reflexology is because they're pressing in those points and getting the organs to the blood flow and the circulation.
Yeah.
Flow into those organs so that you can be healthier. So, like, just try this. If you ever feel yourself catching a cold, go get your feet rubbed. And I bet you're going to feel better the next day. Just try it. Just remember what I said, you know? Because there's times when I do it myself. Like, I'll just soak my feet, you know, in some nice warm water mm-hmm. with sea salt, mm-hmm. Epsom salt, lavender oil, maybe some tea tree. If your feet, you know, need a little kick, put some tea tree oil in there. It's a little crusty. It's a little crusty. And, right. And you can get the little files, the pumice stone mm-hmm. that the professionals use.
Yeah.
Get in there and, you know, get all that dead skin off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But you have to take care of your feet. It is essential.
Right.
And also the overlooked would be your hands too. Because I'm constantly putting lotion. People think, oh, she just want to have non-ashy skin. But what I'm actually doing is massaging. I'm massaging my hands. I'm massaging my fingers. I massage my feet. And I feel a lot better. And I know when I'm getting sick because the bottom of my feet will hurt. Mm-hmm. And so, again, you know, your feet do correspond to major organs in the body. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good job. Now, when I soak mine, I did everything you said, but I also sometimes will incorporate baking soda.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, mm-hmm. baking soda, Epsom salt, lavender oil. Mm-hmm. Especially if I do it at night, because the lavender oil would relax me.
Right.
And then I do have a pumice stone, and I do that. And all that
Shea butter.
Shea butter at the end.
Some socks.
Yeah, exactly.
Go to sleep.
And then like for those guys who might call it like athlete's foot, and you know, you might want to put some apple cider vinegar in there with it, because that's going to help get the fungus out and all that kind of stuff. And then, like you said, do all that, and then put like some white socks on.
That's right.
And that will help get rid of all that. So that's your free tip of the day for us.
That's an amazing tip. That's gonna help. The only caution would be pregnant women.
Yeah. Not
to massage pregnant women's feet and ankles.
Right.
You know, just to be mindful of making sure there's no contraindications around massaging pregnant women.
Exactly.
Or even high blood pressure. But, you know, even if you just move rapidly in a softer way, you know, getting in there and kind of helping them release some tension is good. But I would say most women, you probably want to get their shoulders and mm-hmm. maybe, you know, massage their hips and stuff like that. But
exactly.
I would think that's one thing that a lot of couples, if you want to build some intimacy with your partner, mm-hmm. you need to massage each other.
Right.
And that's going to help reduce stress. Mm-hmm. And that's going to help build intimacy and trust. Mm-hmm. And that's going to bring healing and balance into your relationship as well as your body.
Right.
So I think all couples should be massaging each other. It shouldn't be one person doing it and the other one's just getting all the benefits. No, you have to reciprocate on that level.
I
you
agree.
know.
I
Yeah.
agree. Good job.
So that's another tip for y'all. Get out there and be loving on each other.
So, how can people find your organization?
So, Holistic Stress Control Institute is spelled with a W to kind of indicate the word whole.
So,
like I'm a whole
WH.
WHOLISTIC1.com.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the website. Y'all can hit me on email at DionTurner at holistic1.com if you want to get in touch and become a community partner. You know, we have some events coming up, so we'll be on Facebook.
Okay.
Holistic.stress.
So I need to contact you at your website, email, and so I could try to be a community partner? Or how do
Yeah,
I
you
do
can
it?
email me
Okay.
at DionTurner at holistic1.com.
I'll do it officially.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. And so and then they can reach you on social media. You said Facebook?
Yeah, Facebook, holistic.stress.
Okay.
And so they can just drop me a DM or something like,
Okay.
hey, I want to be a community partner or a future vendor. We have a lot of amazing vendors that have been, you know, in partnership with us. So we'll have some more events, more opportunities for people to come out, become a health, you know, demonstrator or health speaker, and also a vendor.
Okay.
Or a food vendor.
Okay. All right. And so as we get ready to close,
Yeah.
I want to give you the opportunity to speak from your spirit. It could be about anything you want, whatever you feel led to tell the audience.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Well, I think it's important for each of us to commit to our wellness. We have to do that. If we want to be a better functioning group of people, then we have to say, I want to be healthy, and then do what it takes to become a healthy individual. And a lot of that involves, you know, like you said, resting and exercise and eating well and drinking water. And I would add to that meditation and prayer. And then making sure that you really do have your tribe. You know, you can't isolate, especially in this time and age where things are so chaotic. You want to have some grounding. And that grounding could be in your spiritual practice as well as in your family and your friends and your loved ones.
Right.
You know, so even if you don't have a love partnership, please love on yourself. You know what I mean? Because when you continue to love on yourself and really get into what self-love means, then you will attract the person that will also give that love back to you. And then you reciprocate and you keep it going. And I would just say, you know, master your emotions. It's worth the work. Because when you master yourself and your emotions, then you just become a better being, a more evolved individual, and you have better experiences.
I agree.
You know?
I agree. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you. But for me, what I would say is your health and wellness is worth it. I think a lot of times we have to stop making our health and wellness a last resort or last thought process.
Right.
It should be a primary thought process, because without your health, then you can't be the greatest version of yourself. And so you have to really work on, you know, the self-love and the self-care. Love yourself enough to take the care of yourself. So, you know, doing the foot detoxes, getting massages, you know, the meditation, the prayer, make sure you eat right. All that stuff is self-care. So what you telling, when you do all that, then you telling God and you in the universe that you love yourself enough to do what you need to do to be the greatest version of yourself. When you do anything outside of not what you're doing, outside of that, what you're telling God and the universe is, I don't love myself enough to do what I need to do to be the best version of myself, mind, body, and spirit. So when things happen to you, and then you react, and now you want to ask the universe to help you and heal you, and it may not work out the way you wanted it to be. The question you have to ask yourself is, why you want him to do something for you that you're not willing to do for yourself?
Right.
So if you want God and the universe to heal you, then you need to show him that you love yourself enough to start putting in the necessary work.
Right.
So then, therefore, that he'll reciprocate the love to you that you should already be loving on yourself. So that's I just want to use that to piggyback what you said, because everything begins and ends with you with self-love. You have to love yourself enough. And when I tell people that, they never really understand that, because and when I say when I ask them how they get to this point, I said, when did you stop loving yourself? They never got that. I said, because if you at this point, at some point you feel like I don't love myself enough to do what I need to do to get better. Because you shouldn't, you should already have created some kind of a lifestyle to be healthy. And if you haven't, you have to ask yourself, why not?
Right.
And so if you have not started, choose today, say, I love myself, and from this day forward, I'm going to love myself, and I'm going to create the lifestyle. I'm going to attract that tribe that I need to help me become the greatest version of myself, and to also be the vessel to help other people be the greatest version of themselves. So with that being said, this is Kevin Thornton, the Wellness Architect. Thank you for tuning in. Be great, be you, be authentic, and we are out. Good job.
Thank you.
Playing all of today's hits. You're listening to Instinct Radio.